Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto thanks button in the info box below this video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Refracted Curvature, that's John, Neil, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Hey, good afternoon, guys.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. Hope you all had a nice 4th of July. Do you all tend to get drunk on 4th of July?
No.
Just let off fireworks and scare dogs.
No. Didn't even do that either.
You can't let off fireworks anymore. I thought that was the main point in the 4th of July. No?
Well, not if you live in commie. If you live in commie Fortnite, they don't let you do fireworks anymore.
Or commie New York.
Of course you're
They're
in.
allowed, but we're not.
You're in strict but yet extremely liberal California. Very strange.
No, we celebrate independence when we don't have any.
Yes, very bizarre. There we go. But you're out in the boonies, right? You're not in the middle of the city.
No, of course. The cities and the municipalities do a little fireworks show, that people go to the park or to the ocean. You could see many done over the water. But it used to be when I grew up, fireworks stands everywhere and you go by here and have a great time. Now kids miss out on all that.
You can buy fireworks. There's a fireworks shop down the road from me. You can buy fireworks all year round and let them off whenever you like.
Well, Nathan, have you noticed the price of gas? By the time I got to you and home, it wouldn't be worth it.
I'm not suggesting you come and buy from this guy.
Listen, by me, you drive to Pennsylvania, and that's how the cops get their fireworks. You got New York plates, they pull you over on the way back and confiscate all of them.
Yeah, we just go to, back in the day, people would just go to Tijuana, right across the border and get it.
Let me get it straight. You can legally own and open carry firearms in many states, but fireworks,
Yeah, that's right.
We blow stuff up in Tennessee all the time. All the time.
Morning, guys.
Hey, Chocolate. Let's do a bit of house.
How's it?
Oh, go on.
Okay, no, hey, Chocolate, did you do any fireworks in Georgia?
No, sir.
Hello.
Hey, Owen.
I'm the only American who shot off fireworks.
Sounds like it.
I think it all
Actually,
links
wanted
back
to go shoot my gun,
Atheism?
but
You're in a
I'm
gun,
just saying
do you,
it
Chocolate?
all like the 4th of July. It's linked to the sun, isn't it? With the aphelion furthest, the position of the sun. It's
That I did not know.
yeah, the 4th of July. That's what that is. It's aphelion. I can't pronounce it wrong. Sorry. So it's just funny how that Independence Day ties in with that the sun position.
Say
It's
the
like everything
furthest.
they do.
When you say the furthest, what do you mean? In a heliocentric rhetoric, it's the height of summer. Therefore, obviously, the sun's much further away in the model. Obviously, but is that what you're referring to? Because
Yeah.
What literally the claim that the heliocentric sun's the furthest away on the 4th of July?
You know, perihelion and aphelion. That's the 4th of July. On aphelion, I can't pronounce it, so I've got a cut in my mouth. Help me out with the pronunciation, please, somebody. Aphelion, is it?
Explain what that is.
It's the sun. It's the sun's position.
Worship the Sunday.
You're not giving enough information. The sun's position relative to where it was the former day and the former day before that, if you referenced it in the sky and compared the positions. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
I'm trying to lead
Yeah,
you.
they say it's at the highest point before its movement into the southern outer ring. Obviously, you've got the summer solstice, which is the 21st of December, but that's like I said, the 4th of July is connected to the happy helion.
Well, I was a happy helion because I traded my fireworks for 2 ribeye steaks yesterday. It was really good.
Did we get any news from NASA? Like, was there like a nearby comet or asteroid that happened to have like an American flag on it? Because NASA's good for the shit like that.
Yeah, right. Halloween, they'll have a pumpkin sun or something. So 4th of July, it's got to be an asteroid in the shape of the Star Spangled Banner, right?
Yeah, they've done it before. Different holidays. There was one that they said looked like it had a mask on. That just happened to come around when the pandemic was around, and you know, just coincidence, of course. I mean, it's retarded. Man. It's ridiculous.
Well, you got to know with the shutdown, any comet has to cover their face before they come. You know that, right?
Just me, or is 10th Man a little bit quiet?
A little bit.
But okay. Hey, how about housekeeping questions?
Yes, indeed. How about a housekeeping question or two? Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Negative.
That would contradict
Well,
the
not
social
on Earth.
system model.
That would be a
Who claims the
reification
horizon
fallacy,
is
wouldn't it?
Earth curve?
Reify the horizon as being a physical place.
No, the horizon's not a physical place, and I no longer reify it, although I did at one stage in my life.
Who claims the horizon is Earth curve? As the person who asked the question and claimed the horizon is Earth curve. Details.
People who believe
No
that the
anti-flat
Earthosphere
earther
claim
claims
the
that.
horizon's Earth curve.
No anti-flat earther claims that. You know?
Yeah, anti-flat earthers don't claim the horizon's Earth curve. They claim it's a refracted, non-geometric, non-physical, not going to be blocking boats and buildings position into the horizon. I mean, obviously still assuming that it's refracted from the physical position that used to block boats and buildings, and they used to argue blocked boats and buildings with a physical calculable blockage value. But now it's not. Now it's a refracted non-physical position because we debunked it as a physical position known as Earth curve. So, no, you're right, Arwin. Anti-flat earthers don't claim it's Earth curve, a physical blockage. It's refracted.
Well, technically, the anti-flat earthers still claim that it blocks things geometrically, just not optically, right? Optically, it's refracted, but geometrically, when you put it in a side-on view, it's still a ball, and it's apparently in that, and it will still block things geometrically. It's just when you look at it with your eyes, it doesn't do that.
It's either blocking it geometrically and therefore Earth curve, as claimed in the Earth curve maths, or it isn't. Either it's a hill in the way, obscuring your view of things into the distance, or it isn't. It's either Earth curve, blocking your view, or as we showed in 2020 with the Black Swan, if the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959, then every distance to Earth curve could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and the distance to the horizon in the Black Swan is beyond 10 miles, as opposed to the 1.2 miles it would be at 1 foot of an observer's height. Therefore, the horizon is not a physical Earth curve limitation to your view, and the Earth is not a sphere radius 3959. It was debunked in 2020, hence anti-flat earthers having to say it's not Earth curve. Refraction, right?
It's not Earth curve when you see it, but when you put it in orthographic view, it is Earth curve, absolutely.
No, that's incorrect also. When you put it in an orthographic view with this in mind, you end up with two horizons. A line of sight to a geometric horizon, according to Andrew Thomas Young, and a bent line to a non-physical, refracted, non-geometric horizon. That's two horizons. Well, we've only got one.
No, that's a straw man because you can't represent optics within orthographic view.
Well, they are. They're claiming it as what you see, and what you see is a bent line to a physical, non-physical, refracted, non-geometric, geometric horizon. So there's two of them.
They just don't understand.
I understand two marked positions with horizon written on them.
Well, they don't understand that you can't incorporate optics and perspective in orthographic view, so that it's kind of pointless to try to represent how you would see things in orthographic view. But you can definitely show how the curvature is there. You just can't really lock it in with optics, with how it would look. Because when you look at it in the real world, it's all flat, of course.
Well, plus we pegged that in about 2017 and inserted the perspective hijacking element to the calculation when describing it. So you have the begging the question because it assumes an R value, proof of nothing because it's begged the question, perspective hijacking, i.e. orthographic view, has a target measured in meters or feet. So you're looking at a building in the distance in earth curve maths. That building will be given a feet or meters value. So let's say it's a 100-foot building. It doesn't matter if the building's a mile away or 1,000 miles away. It's still a 100-foot building. Ergo, it removes all aspects of angular relationships. That would be apparent size, aka perspective. So it removes all aspects of perspective by keeping the targets at the same exact feet and inches or meters value, regardless of distance, aka orthographic view, what we fondly refer to as Muppet vision, because you see in the side of your own head.
Right, so Muppet vision can show you where things would really be on the globe, but as soon as you start to say, oh, well, this is how it's going to look based on this graph, that's when you get into real trouble, a lot of it. And that's where it becomes pointless, right?
Yeah, well, we pegged that, as I say, in 2017. So they can't assert that they've got these maths that assert physicality. Further to that, they've relinquished their own claim on the anti-flat Earth side. The anti-flat Earthers don't claim Earth curve anymore. I mean, Tim Osman, your archetype anti-flat Earther and globe Earth troll in his mind, asked us.
And they did give it a strong try, though. I still remember when Rumpus first introduced the donkey dick attempt of optics in an orthographic view. It was quite impressive that he at least tried.
Well, that was Andrew Thomas Young's. He had that in 2017 when he was arguing with me personally about the horizon being the physical leading edge of a sphere blocking the Isle of Man. And then, just by chance, whilst recording, he had his screen shared and rolled through all of his documents, and there it was, Andrew Thomas Young, telling Rumpus that the horizon he was claiming was physically a hill in the way of the Isle of Man. Isn't a hill in the way of anything. It's a refracted, non-geometric, non-physical position. So that's why he got banned. Because when challenged with that very fact, he lied.
Yeah, that's right. That's when the real doublespeak started with the anti-flat earthers. That's when he started to say, nobody ever claimed the horizon was geometric.
That's
oh,
what
really,
I was
Rumpus? You never claimed that?
That's
really?
what I was going to refer to Tim Osman having said precisely that. Nobody claims the horizon is Earth curve. End quote. In other words, our opponents here in their hell are not exactly heaven, but certainly nicer than... you don't know that the grass is greener until you stumble over the fence and go, wow, isn't the grass greener here? Well, they've stumbled over the fence and gone, I like the old grass better. There was more people roaming around on it. Yes, there was less to eat, but I preferred it. Well, either way, they're both over this side of the fence, not believing in Earth curve with us, but just they want to retain their belief that they've got a sphere belief. They haven't, because they believe in Earth curve being a hill in the way. An impossibility we debunked in 2020.
If only we hadn't stopped considering the geometry, right? That's when it all ended for them.
The problem is
what
with
about?
Well, there's
Go on.
Hold on. What about Virus the other day? He was shocked that celestial movements had anything to do with Earth's turn.
Well, it hasn't, but it's
Well,
claimed to
I
be
just
the
wanna-
cause. Go on, John.
I was going to say, whether you claim the horizon is geometric or a refracted geometry, either way, that's contradictory to the celestial sphere model. So they don't get confused about that.
right, you can't acquire an elevation angle from a curved baseline. And is there any evidence that you could, if you're a globe believer, acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline, i.e. a sphere Earth?
Well, if you could, they wouldn't tell us about how they would use a flat plane first. They would just use the curved baseline that they believe the surface of the Earth is. Oh wait, they tell us when they're doing their elevation angles, they're not talking about the surface of the Earth. Wonder why that is.
Because the surface of the Earth is flat and they kid themselves into believing that they're still sphere believers. This is the most interesting aspect, if you ask me, of our current situation. Yes, we've had to suffer the suppression, but none of us can turn back. Not because we couldn't pretend, like the anti-flat earthers do, that we still have a commonly held belief in the sphere. You know, we could also kid ourselves that that was possible. But I think in reality the opponents here, the anti-flat earthers, would just prefer we shut up about it. Do you know what I mean? It's not. That's why they got labelled anti-flat earthers, because it's not like they want to believe in the ball, because that just requires you believe in the ball, as opposed to assess it, realise there's something wrong with it, and then employ a bit of cognitive dissonance, only for someone like me or you on the panel to come along and go, "That's cognitive dissonance right there. You can't hold both of those opinions as true. That can't work." At that point, they just go, "I'd rather you just shut up." That's their attitude towards us. As opposed to, "I'd rather you just accept and understand how I can prove we're on a sphere. It's not a belief, it's a fact." But they haven't got that anymore. They've got no grounds to say that they've got a true fact in their belief in a sphere Earth. That went quite some time ago for many of the people who oppose us. And what's interesting is they've been segregated. And it took me a while to realise that I'd been segregated before it was really overt and, you know, there were YouTube sat before Congress. But before that, I realised we were being segregated into a little corner of the internet. But it's only recently that I've realised that so are our opponents. My false assumption was, look at all this mainstream exposure they've got. No, they haven't. They've been segregated into a little corner of the internet just like us. Then what you realise after you assess that is that it's the same corner. Yeah? Now, it might be that in this little corner, they, in the tiny pond we found ourselves in, get access to the surface food more than we do. But that's it. It's the same shitty little corner of the internet. You know, whether they like it or not, they're stuck here with us. It makes me laugh every time I think about it.
Nathan, just a response to what you just said. So back in the day, when we would go to YouTube and type in flat earth or keywords like that, we'd get the real good channels showing up and good arguments, debates were seen there. Now, because after YouTube sat before Congress, you go hit flat earth, you get the opposition, you get anti-flat earthers channels, you get all the... So they didn't stop it. They just got rid of the ones that made sense and put us somewhere down the list, and no one's going to sit there 1 hour scrolling to find. So they didn't get rid of it. They just pushed those other channels up to the top to where someone goes there and says, this is stupid, and then gives up on it.
So they want to defend it. They still want to defend it and want to believe in it, but it's defending it has become a problem because none of it makes sense on paper. So
Just
the
because-
defense of it, the story doesn't make sense. So this is why they become anti-flat earthers and have to remix the story and then argue that part of it instead of just arguing the story the way it comes, because it's indefensible.
Right, just because you want to defend it doesn't mean you can. So they're all very frustrated. They're like a lord. They're like, what do you call them again? Samurai, whose lord has died, but they just can't accept that it's died, and they want to keep defending it. So they're just creating like an idol of their lord that they try to defend, but it's not their lord, right?
No, they're building new idols. New idols that don't match the old one. They just resemble the old one slightly. Anyway, shout out to Godzilla37 who says, Ranty Bran Pickles. the only pickles that can turn back into a cucumber. Really appreciate the support. Thank you very much.
That's great.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Axis first, which would mean you'd need a radial value. Then you would need a non-inertial turning reference frame, which is relying on the axis. And then you could beg the question of Coriolis.
Yeah, like you're going to need an R value first. And that'll violate the celestial sphere model.
But what if the entire realm enclosed and all was like stationary and the universe was simply spinning around it, as it seems to be, right? Whatever it is.
Oh, we must avoid that at all costs, says Edwin Hubble.
Right. An Earth-centric system, which is what seems to present itself to us when you investigate the skies, is something that the heliocentrists do not want under any circumstances. Must be, as Chocolate's just quoted from Hubble, Edwin Hubble, quote, you have to avoid this at all costs. Can't have Earth at the centre of the universe.
Isn't that funny?
It's kind of problematic because we are stationary, nothing is moving, there is no Coriolis deviation, yet this apparent universe does seem to be spinning around us. So we have to avoid the realization of what is much more reasonable assumption. We have to avoid that at all costs.
No,
Why?
it's a grandiose projection onto others. So the stars that we observe go around a central point from what we can see. That's it. That's the end of the observation statement. There's nothing more I can add to that. That you can pepper it up with all sorts of dressing, but that's the crux of what we're describing. Do we know what the stars are? No, we do not. Do we know what the sky is? No, we do not. To assert that means that as I stare out into what is my local sky at a given time, I can assert that the patterns that were produced in the sky can be extrapolated out into an assertion that I'm at the centre of the universe. That is an extrapolation that's come from a heliocentric worldview, with us as a tiny speck and the rest of the known universe around that tiny speck in a sky vacuum. When you translate that into the observations meeting back mathematically to us being at the centre of those lights being observed in the sky, they say, well, that puts my worldview in a very grand scale with Earth at the centre of it. Earth at the centre of what? The sky? I'm not at the centre of anything in that regard. There's a ground below me and the sky above me, and patterns that happen in it. That doesn't put me at the centre of bloody anything as far as I can ascertain. There's no way you're going to assert that CMB, the rotation of the stars, what I see in the night sky in a telescope, is in any way going to put me at the centre of the bloody universe. It is equally as absurd and merely a grandiose projection from heliocentrists onto anybody who takes their extrapolations in a massive worldview and puts them into the reality of the mathematical dictations that their reifications imply. Well, I'm not going to do that. I don't think I'm at the centre of anything in that regard. How do I know? I've not gone to the horizon. By that I mean I've not gone to the ends of wherever I can go to know what else is above there. And seemingly there's different stuff in what we used to refer to as the southern hemisphere. You get a totally different set of stars. So what's that to say that you keep going what we now refer to with our limited and contained methods of travel with magnetic declination in tow? Well, what if I ignore all that and just straight line it? I might meet ice by assumption of loads of flat earthers, but I might not. Might just meet some other land with a different set of stars above it.
Just a comment on the quote from Edwin Hubble. What did he say first?
Chocolate probably knows it verbatim about avoiding the idea of us being at the centre of the universe at all costs. He's referring to the observations of the CMB, right? Chocolate probably knows it verbatim if he's still around. While he's doing that, I'll shout out
good.
Hillside.
No, that's good enough.
Just one sec. Shout out Hillside, who says, "Sup, boys?" Gives us a fist bump. Thank you very much for the super chat.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment on it. In celestial navigation, that's all out the door, Edwin Hubble, because celestial sphere model dictates the Earth isn't at the center and stationary. So in order for navigation to work, it's the opposite of what Hubble's trying to do.
Yeah, the stars move over particular points in the land, and because they have a predictable pattern, you can predict what part of land they will be above at a given time. That's it. Very useful. Does that mean that the world that's below those stars at a given time can be extrapolated out into anything in terms of the geographical position in the quote-unquote universe of Earth? No, that bit of land happens to be below those stars with those patterns. That's all it means. Because I don't know what the stars are, and neither do they. Well, it might, but I don't know. They don't tell us. What they tell us the stars here is definitely not what they are. But whether or not they know is irrelevant. So, in case someone says, oh, they might know, well, great, go off and appeal to them, the liars that told you that there were burning balls of gas in a sky vacuum, because they might know.
Well, much like them needing a tangent plane in order to do anything, because you can't get anything from a curved baseline, they also have to go against their whole narrative by saying we're at the center of the universe and we're not a ball turning, we have to be stationary. Well, who's ever heard of a stationary ball? In their model, we have to be turning. So stationary goes against them, center of the universe goes against them, and using a tangent plane on a curved surface to achieve your angle, well, you're not doing it from a curved baseline, so Sexton can't work on a globe. So you need a flat plane. What does that tell the audience?
Hi, Adam.
I was about to disagree with you until you put that disclaimer in. I was about to say that's our model. They're stealing. They're using a flat Earth model to assert it's a globe.
Yeah, that's the whole point. That is the basis of your argument, I think, and all of ours now is they want to show us something that's not real, but then when they have to do the guts and engine work and make it work, they have to admit it's a flat Earth plane model for things to work.
So, hello, Adam.
Afternoon, guys.
Good afternoon. Yesterday I made a note that the view numbers were really low. After the fact, there was over 1,000 likes on the live show, with a very low number of views, or typically statistically low number of views compared to a normal show. Not so low that I'd be concerned until I saw there's a stupid number of likes on there. I was like, what is going on? It's like the third time it's happened in a month where there's been some craziness going on with my likes and views. But I had 120 comments, about 600 views, just so out of whack in terms of the sort of ratios that I typically expect to see on a live show. Now today, got 100 people watching, we're about halfway through, more than 100 people watching. That's about right. You know, this is typically about the point of the show that I go, woohoo, 100 people watching, yay! Please share the show. Thank you very much for joining. Everyone who shared the show, thank you for sharing. That's why there's 100 people watching. Maybe yesterday no one shared it, but it seems unlikely. And then to see, like I say, the thumbs going mad, it's like, what is going on? It really annoys me when my stats go all over the place. Because I can only make those statements about it being out of whack because I keep an eye on my stats. But then if enough of them go out of whack, it's like, well, your stats aren't worth anything to refer anything to anymore. It just bugs me. Anyway, so yesterday's viewing figures, likes and comments were all out of whack. But in the case of the views, which is more important than, I don't really care about the likes, it throws my stats out of whack in the negative. Maybe it'll counteract the last two times this happened where the views seem to go higher. There we go. Anyway, enough of my moaning about the crazy viewing figures.
With you, at least, it sometimes boosts up enormously. With me, they like to just apparently arbitrary shows pick and then just, oh, you can only have one upvote or two or three. And then it's back to normal again, and then it's like lower down again. I've never had like crazy upvote boosts like you have. Not that it really matters or anything.
The likes aren't useful for anything, so I don't know other than...
I know.
Some people get a bit obsessed about having lots of likes on Facebook posts and stuff. I don't even look at them as a statistic because I just don't think they tell me anything. Especially as, typically speaking, I'm not exactly pro-mainstream, so there's a good chance someone's going to come and just off the cuff, based on the title, give me a thumbs down. So you're like, okay, So it just doesn't hold much meaning. Lots of people don't like the notion of Earth being flat. And that's what I cover
Nathan,
here. So people
Right,
are going to
but
come and
do
dislike
you,
it.
But we
do
know
you
one
get your?
thing out of it, and that's we're being meddled with. That's what we do know. Go ahead.
Anyway, any evidence of the distance to the sun? As we've been talking quite a lot about the sky.
Hang on, I thought Adam was trying to say something.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, Adam.
Yeah, I interrupted him. Sorry, Adam.
I apologise on Arwen's behalf, Adam. Go ahead. Scared him off, Arwen. It's very timid. So distance to the sun? Anybody at all? Haven't heard
It's
much
over
from,
there.
haven't heard much from Google. From Discord. Clearly not. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? Adam and not Adam in G+, but Adam in Discord and Birdman and a couple of others. You're all off mute now if you did want to add something.
Can you repeat the question again?
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating
going to
molten
ask-
iron core? Go ahead, Adam.
Go ahead.
Go on, Adam. Go. You
Hi.
can do it.
Hi, it's Adam Price. How are you guys?
Good to have you, Adam.
Hey, Adam.
I was going to ask. Thank you. Thank you. I was going to ask how, and I know you've answered it. I know we've gone over it before. I just can't figure out the hijacking of the celestial plane, how they got, the angle to the stars or to the sun, and how they got that and made that into a specific radius that we all have to go by.
Okay.
I don't know how they did that.
Okay, Brian is typically the best person to explain how they acquired the radius value, but you're basically taking the angle of Polaris as you move away from it. So for every 60 statute miles, is that right? Every 69 nautical miles?
Nautical.
Is
No,
it 60?
reverse it. 60 nautical, 69 statute.
So for every...
I'll try to give an explanation, Nate.
I'd rather you did, Brian. You're better at it than I am. You can tell
I
I'm
get the
stumbling my way through it. If Brian's here, so if you just...
Sorry, thank you.
Brian will explain it to you now. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, no worries. I'm driving now, so you might hear a little bit of background noise. But if you take the angle to Polaris as you move south, due south away from its GP point, while north of the equator, you get what you're doing is you're measuring perspective, because all angular measurements are measurements of perspective. So if you then take these angular measurements, you find out that for every 1 degree that Polaris appears to drop, you will have, for every 1 degree Polaris appears to drop, that will be 60 minutes of degree. So you then convert those 60 minutes of degree into nautical miles, which is all nautical miles are, which is a land convergence into from minutes of degree into what we call a nautical mile, because that's why there's 60 nautical miles per degree. That's the why, because there's 60 minutes per degree. So that's the only reason there's 60 nautical miles. But what you get then, when you get from 90, start at 90, let's just say with Polaris directly over your head and you standing at its GP, when you go out to the equator line, you will have a 0 degrees to Polaris's GP, or to Polaris, I should say. So that would be 5,400 minutes of degree between that you will have measured from the equator to Polaris. So that's 5,400 nautical miles. So what they did then is they knew that either side of Polaris did have 5,400 nautical miles, and they worked out that past the equator, going south, you would also have 5,400 nautical miles, or you can state that you have at either side. So then multiply that by 4, you get 21,600 nautical miles. And from there is where the calculator is where the radius originally came from, because what they did then is they took that and made it into a circle. If you make that into a circle, and then look for the nautical mile radius of that. Now, there's no such thing as a nautical mile radius, because a nautical mile is a minute of degree measurement. But if you take that 21,600 nautical mile circle, and you do take a radius in nautical miles, which is not really something that exists in reality, but you can do it mathematically, and then convert it to statute miles, you get 3,900 and 3,958 point blah 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 after the decimal point. So you get just under 3,959 miles. So they rounded it off up the way to 3,959 miles, and whereas the real radius of their globe in statute miles would be 3,958 point blah 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 blah. I can't remember. I don't have the exact figure with me now. I have it on my computer. So that's where they got their radius from. So it's just a back calculation of pre-assumption of flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. That's all it is.
Perfect.
They just use that back calculation.
I just summarise it. I like it when you give the detailed version, because I can summarise things well when I'm basically parroting off what you've just said. So you start with Polaris, and it's above your head at the North Pole. Guy from Discord, Adam Price. And as you move away from it, as you measure it, it will drop 1 degree for every 60 nautical miles. Why? Well, because that is what a nautical mile is. It's 1 degree for the distance that you've travelled versus the 1 degree it dropped towards the horizon. Do you follow so far that it's dropping towards the horizon as you're moving away from it? Adam?
I am. I'm getting it. I'm seeing the protractor.
Right. So you're holding a protractor. You're pointing it at your zenith with Polaris directly above your head. You move away 60 nautical miles. You measure it again. It's 1 degree lower towards the horizon. You keep repeating that process. For every 60 miles you move away from it, it'll drop to 1 degree in your protractor. And then eventually when you get to the point where you can't see it anymore, i.e. it's lined up flat with the horizon line, you've got a quarter of what they will make into the globe. 90. So you times that number by 4, and then you can get the radius value from it. Make sense?
I think this is also
more. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Thank you. It was Brian more than me, considerably.
This is also where you get.
Thank both of you. I thank all of you guys. You guys are awesome.
Just one second, Adam. Adam. Go ahead, Adam Price.
I was just saying thank you. Yeah, I'm listening. Absolutely.
Oh, cool. That's okay. Sorry, Adam. Go ahead.
It sounded like my man there, Adam. It was just a little side note. Some of the bits and bobs that Tim sent me, this is also where the meter is derived from. Because if you divide that into 4 million? Let me just look it up. Where is it? But if you divide it by 40 million, that's 4, yeah, 1/10 millionth of that distance. So we use the stars again and assign it that, and that's where they derive the meter from, is 1/10 millionth for that same distance from the GP of the Sun to the GP of Polaris.
No way! I did not know that.
No. It was turning up in some. So in a lot of ancient buildings, they have doorways which are exactly 1 meter wide, and they couldn't understand why. So this is the meter when the French invented it isn't new. It's previously derived astronomical unit, which caused some consternation, like I said, in exact doorway measurements being a meter before the meter's invented, and it's not matching a cubit, it's not matching a royal cubit, it's slightly out. Yeah, so a little bit of attempt digging there.
So when Grandpa Simpson said the metric system is the devil, he wasn't that far off.
Oh no, it's another unit, it's another astronomical unit though.
Yeah, Simpsons. Any more? On this was a molten iron core question that turned into the sun.
Well, what I'd just like to add to what I said, just to give a little bit more clarity, is when you multiply the 5,400 minutes of degree, nautical miles by 4, you get the 21,600 nautical miles. When they turn that into a circle, they just divide it by 3.14 to get a diameter. Then they halve that to get a radius, which will be in nautical miles. And they just then convert the nautical miles. The conversion is 1.1508. Normally they say it's 1.151, but it's actually 1.1508 by memory. And there's a reason. There's actually a slimy little reason why they say 1.151, and it's not. It's like it's a mathematical thing where they're keeping you away from facts. That's what it is. They're keeping you away from the fact that the conversion is actually that their radius is a conversion from nautical miles, and that's why they say the conversion rate is 1.151 from nautical to from statute to nautical, whereas actually 1.1508. So there's all this little hidden nonsense in there.
Why? That's something I've never understood. From what I've just gleaned, from what you've just said, the only point in the conversion, and if this is the answer to the question, just say yes, is to hide that deception of where the radius is derived. Is that the only reason for the conversion from nautical to statute?
No, it's the reason for the conversion they give you. Most of the time, when people find out about the conversion, most people will just be given a conversion rate of 1.151, and that is the conversion they use to go from statute to nautical. But the actual conversion is 1.1508, and that when you do it that way, it becomes extremely obvious. If you decide to back calculate it, becomes extremely obvious that, right from a mathematical point of view, that their radius matches completely with nautical miles, right, and a nautical mile radius. And most people go, it's no big deal, so it's all a globe, until they realise, hang on a second, you can't do angular measurements on a globe. It's like they're covering every base. That's one of the bases they were trying to cover.
I don't think my question's been made clear, though. Thank you for explaining that.
It's actually a really good find.
Why do they convert it, though? What's the reason?
The reason they convert it is because the statute mile is a different thing from the nautical mile. The nautical mile is derived from minutes of degree, whereas the statute mile is derived from the foot, more or less. Or as far as I know, Adam might know a bit more about the statute mile than I do. But I know that you can, the statute mile, I remember me and Adam talking about this before, and we were laughing at, where does this come from? Because its history is all kind of shrouded, this statute mile. So why they ever needed statute miles, I don't know. I can't remember if I do know the full reason for it. But I just know that a statute mile has a different or slightly different origin than the nautical mile. So that's why they needed the conversion, because the statute miles is a bit smaller than the nautical mile in distance.
Okay.
Is that related to ESA's issue with the miles squared or square miles?
No, that's something else.
Oh, okay. The measurement origin is different.
I'm just asking,
point, right?
why statute miles? Now, okay, if they've come from feet, and it's just, you don't tend to have things with the same name in this deception that we call the world we live in, without there being a reason for it. For example, gravity. There's a good reason why Einsteinian gravity has the same name as Newtonian gravity. It's because there's a bait and switch going on. Well, this strikes me as the same, and to say, well, we had feet and then we had miles after yards. It's like, well, why miles? Why call it miles? Why isn't it called the thurble, after the yard? And it's just like, well, in the same way as you've got meters. Now you're saying it's coincidentally derived from similar origins, but the comparison still stands. You go, well, it's just a different convention. So when you convert one convention into the other, this is how you do the conversion, etc., etc. But they've both got the same name.
Yeah, me and Adam, we were one night laughing. I remember one night Adam rang me. We were laughing about that because we were like, "What is this statue of Moyle? Where does it really come from?" All I could come up with is that it was derived from the foot. But Adam pointed out, then why is it exactly this amount of feet? You know, why is it 69 point whatever statute miles per degree as opposed to 60 nautical miles per degree? We know why there's 60 nautical miles per degree, because 1 minute of degree is 1 nautical mile. But what is the statute mile? You know, I said it was derived from the foot, but Adam made the point, well, how come it's an exactly this amount? You know, so who knows?
So we don't know.
It's a bit of a mystery.
The answer is I don't know. That's fine. I'd like to know the answer too, and it sounds like you've obviously pondered it considerably more than me in the last 10 minutes of asking the question.
The only bit I'd found was it's linked to other old land units. But again, there's no reason why you wouldn't just define it from a nautical, because it's still valid on the land. Just had a quick search there, but what's it say? Any other various distance? A statute mile being 5,280 feet, originating from a Roman mile or 1,000 paces, which measured 5,000 Roman feet. So it appears, like as Brian's saying, from the feet, from those kind of cubic type ancient units. But again, where they derive that, because obviously the logical thing is to then go, well, where did they get them from? And that's the bit where I don't know.
Well, the word statuette, what is the definition of that? That might give us...
That's just the title to distinguish it, so that it's a British imperial mile.
Yeah, we're also mile. I feel not changing from, you know, which one was first, and then is that story true? I mean, are they changing from that to the other? I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. In terms of the description of how you get to a nautical mile, you can understand it if you understand how they're measuring the minutes of degree through the sky. You know, you've got arc seconds and all the rest of it. It all makes perfect sense. It's all divisible by 60. I'll remember it nice and easily now. Brian's explained it to me. But that figures, right? You can see the logic behind it. So, what about statute miles? Roman paces? What? How long with it? It just okay. What do you want? It doesn't seem to make any sense. Whereas the nautical mile makes perfect sense. Is anybody going to disagree with me in terms of the seemingly sound logic of a nautical mile versus the scratch your head logic of a statute mile?
Right.
I totally agree, Nathan. And maybe it's purely as simple as hiding a globe.
Well, that was my original assertion. That was my original assertion, right? That's my first go-to. This seems like a bait and switch, so that the numbers don't match up in a way that will make it obvious. And that was your conclusion also. You're like, no, all I can see is veiled numbers that have been disguised and would have an obvious mathematical implication for anybody who looked at them without a slight deviation from the one degree for 60 nautical miles. Just change it, just make it 69 point something, and then the numbers don't match, and it won't lead you back, obviously, to the heliocentric deception.
I've got a random claim, Bri. I don't know if it's true. It's just I've just seen it come upon some. I've just googled it, but I'll read it. If the mile originated with 5,000 Roman feet, how did we end up with a mile that is 5,280 feet? And here it says, blame the furlong. The furlong wasn't always just an arcane unit of measure that horse racing fans gabble on about. It once had a significance as the length of furrowing a team of oxen could plough in a day. So in 1592, Parliament set about determining the length of the mile, decided that each statute mile should be made up of 8 furlongs. And since a furlong was 660 feet, we ended up with 5,280. say fantastical tales of no reason.
Yeah, that's no better than no better than marching. Was it ox? Did you say ox dragging?
I might have something.
Yeah.
Bloody hell! And were they super healthy? Big ox with long legs? Were they frail ox that weren't well fed on a crap farm that weren't do? I mean, this is nonsense.
I have something, and it won't be something that people will like, but I'll throw it out there. One statute mile is 1.609344 kilometers. Now, that is a specific amount of kilometer. Now, if you add all them together, you're getting 27, if I'm correct. Is it 27?
Hold on, 2 and 7 make 9.
Yeah. Because I can't claim that it's definitely numerology, but I keep on finding 9. I keep finding 9.
No, you did not.
In all their maths.
No, you did not find 9.
Okay.
What did you find, Brian? Let's be honest. Did you find 2 and 7?
Yeah, but if you're using numerology, you always add it down to its smallest.
That's like saying I keep finding metal, and you go, yeah, you're using a metal detector.
Well, either way, if we just look at the kilometers, I'm not going to argue with you about that because I can't argue. I can only show you the numerology and show you how it's done, and I can't make someone say that's right or wrong, or I can't argue that. But I can just say I keep finding it. But as far as kilometers go, this is a specific amount of kilometers. Why that specific amount of kilometers, which is meters? Is the statute mile derived from meters originally, as opposed to minutes of degree? Like Adam was saying, the meter comes from a celestial source as well.
Adam's normally the voice of reason on things like this, especially when it comes to mathematics. So I know Brian's tried to sort of slip it in under the radar, but my radar was better and I detected it before it even came out of his mouth. What's your view on gematria and numerology and stuff of that nature, Adam?
I find it interesting, but I don't see causation with it. So it's interesting that occurs because it doesn't occur. But for me, how to draw an inference or to say what that means, I don't know. Then the only thing I just wanted to, we can derive the nautical mile, and the point I'm conceding that I don't know is, and as you laughed along with, I can't see how this derives a unit, an ox, soldiers pacing. How does that derive a unit per se?
It doesn't.
No, and that's the nuance that I'm detecting, that we have this thing that is derivable in terms of it's consistent what we're using to get a unit from the sky, but to be using Roman soldiers or oxers ploughing just smells of a fanciful tale that's covering something else up. And Brian's got a feeling for these numbers more and is into it a lot more, but
don't pass the buck.
It's interesting that that these 9s occur.
Well, what I would say is, I think first of all, in defense of the number 9 of numerology, we have to remember who we're dealing with. Who are we dealing with? That knows things more. What group possibly has more information on this and have had more information on this situation than us for a long period of time?
Well, I see it as magic. So when it comes to numerology, and I don't want to get into the wrangle-dangle of right and wrong in this regard. I just know what I perceive it to be. So mathematics is just another language, and magic is just use of language. So magic tricks come in many different forms, and mostly the ones we cover on the show are linguistic magic tricks. Fallacy, we were going to cover on the show, we haven't touched on at all, though we discussed it in the pre-show. But just a form of magic. Grammar, spelling. Well, this is mathematical magic when it comes to gematria. And breadcrumbs that people perceive in terms of the way that the numbers line up I don't buy, and I'll tell you why. Because in the same way there's many different languages, we might be using a Latin language to communicate right now, but ultimately you could be using a completely different structure of language, right? You could be using Mandarin. Well, equally, in mathematics, you could be using many different structures to describe things in mathematics that aren't the 1 to 10 or 1 to 9 number structure that we use, and qualifiable and useful for similar tasks with a different language. Now, when you see these correlative after the fact through the lens of gematria or numerology patterns building up, I see that as someone holding up a lens that shows them how that number convention can be formulated and show patterns. That's all I see it as. But, you know, I've over the course of Flat Earth, it's one of the lesser irritating subjects that gets covered in the conspiracy realm, mainly because it seems to me that, although I'll confess I don't understand most of the time what's being explained when it is explained, which often it isn't, it seems to be of people who are a little bit more intelligent, a little bit more learned, a little bit less to jump to weird conclusions, generally, even though it's perceived by me as a bit weird, I'll be honest. But there we go. I'm still open to it, like Adam said, and occasionally when it gets... Go on,
if you're looking at Hebrew and stuff like that, and this is what the 1500s for, is to try and, with John Dee, is to get this gematria useful in English. As for its usefulness, I don't know on its significance, but I do. The only support I would say is it in the ancient world and in ancient languages, numbers and letters had meanings. This is why in the Bible you'll see the number of the beast. That these things have, certainly in ancient languages, real significance. All the names have a number, an assignment to it, and it has significance. Whether, like I say, you can translate over into English and it have the same meaning, I don't know, but I'll say this.
Sure, but when I've had that explained to me in the past, I've postulated some of those assertions that I've had put to me, and I haven't accepted them necessarily, but I've put them to Christians. I've said, how would you feel if I described this passage from the Bible as being interpreted as a description or even a manual for conception to childbirth? Now, I know it's a story about a woman going into the woods, but can you understand that I can decode that thus and give you a manual for how that might occur in terms of the metaphor of the story, right? That's how it's been explained to me in the past, using numerology and code and blah, blah, blah. Not enough for me to sound intelligent and pretend that I know I'm explaining back now, because this is a long time ago, or a reasonable time ago for me to not give a concise summary. But that's not important. What is important is when I've put that to a Christian, heresy, blasphemy, evil, no, how dare you, would be the response I got. Well, referencing the Bible.
Yeah, but see, what I say about numerology is numerology transcends beliefs and languages and different things. It's to do with the numbers.
It is a language.
And for instance, yeah, but it's numerology. What I said earlier, the people that possibly know more about this and have known more about this for a long time, that we are basically on the same side as, but in kind of opposition of, is people like the Freemasons. I don't know what they know or what they don't know, but numerology has always seemed to be very important to them, and groups very similar to them, but them in particular. And things like just two examples. The words globe model, that becomes number 9 numerologically. The number of the beast, what they call the number of the beast, which is 666, that's 9. Now, lots of things are 9 numerologically if you do it that way from nature as well. 9 just has some super significance to it, and I don't know how it works out, or the full extent of it, and I can't use it directly as an argument, but it's strange that so many things, including nautical miles, the thought mile, all this all comes back, it all connects to 9. So there is something there.
Do you know what
I can't use it as an argument.
Do you know what 669 is?
No, I don't.
669.
Well, if I add them together, I'd know it'd be like, what is it, 12 and 9, 21, is it?
I know, it's the fax number of the beast. With that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Stream, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the PayPal link and thanks button and all that good stuff. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you are watching on either Premiering Stream. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!